Hey there, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Storytime with the Scariest Podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz,
Hello.
and if you're new here, Storytime is our episode where we get to share homegrown horrors sent to us from our lovely spooky friends out there. Adam, why don't you get a little in more detail about those?
So, homegrown horrors are the wonderful stories that have been shared with us by you, the listener or viewer, that are supernatural, spiritual, coincidental, sometimes true crime, sometimes extraterrestrial in nature. Robin, if someone has a story like that they would like to share, where can they send it?
You can send it to our email, storytime@scarish.com. You can also send it to our social media. We got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We get a few stories that way. You can also go to our website, scarish.com, and there's a contact us page. You fill out that form there, and it gets emailed to us that way. So whichever is convenient for you.
Indeed. So we would love to hear from you. We would share your story on the show, as we're going to do for 3 stories that we have today. One of them is quite long. So what we're going to do is Robin's going to read her first story. Then I'm going to read the first half of the long story. Then we're going to do the normal ad break. Then we're going to come back and Robin's going to read the second half of the long story. And then I'll read my last story.
You know what'll be fun about that is how we read the stories. So maybe your whole feel of how you read the first part of the story is going to be completely different from how I read the second part of the story.
It will be very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
So, cool. That said, before we move any further, I want to go ahead and let folks know, as we mentioned before, Pasta Time last week was our last Pasta Time officially. Not sure if we're going to have one of those again ever. If we do, it'd probably be a one-off or something like that. Like maybe we're going to have a scariest writing contest or something. Who knows? But we have no plans for that in the future. This story time is not going to be the last story time that we're going to run. But because we are low on stories and we don't want to try and basically ask people like, hey, everyone send us stories, because you kind of tend to get a bunch of bullshit. It's like we want to do something a little different. And I said we were going to have some details of what's going to happen with that. So for the live stream specifically, it's going to run different than the Storytime episodes, than the Friday episodes that are going to be released. So what is going to happen is we are going to start doing, just for, I'd say probably a couple of months, maybe 3 months, depending on how long they go. We're going to have a Storytime series. We don't have a name for it yet. I'd like to call it Storytime : Spooky Time. But what we're going to do is a few sessions with a few different groups of an actual play D&D horror themed storyline that I am going to be the dungeon master for. We have 2 confirmed groups already. So essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to write a one-shot. I'm going to write something that's only going to take 2 or 3 hours for us to play through. It's going to be horror themed, maybe haunted house, maybe a town turns into werewolves, something fun. We're going to mix in a bunch of stuff that we've done on the show, and it's going to be a blast. And then we're going to release those in episode format. Robin is, of course, going to be part of them. I'm very excited because I love D&D. We've had a lot of folks who have suggested things similar to this, and I've been inspired by a DM friend of mine who previously gave us a haunted house one-shot for Halloween. So that said, here's the discrepancy. Here's going to be the difference, okay? So the group that we have recording first is not going to be recording live. It is actually going to be the Twats crew. So my amazing co-hosts, Garrett and Faye, are going to be my players yet again. We have an actual play that we do for Twats as well. We're going to have a 4th super secret special guest, which I'm really, really excited for. And then I'm still figuring out exactly how Robin's going to work into that.
It's Griffin McElroy.
That'd be so fucking cool. It's no one that I don't think anyone knows, but that would be awesome. Okay, so that said, that's one group. The second group is the JJ Obsession. So it's going to be Jess, Jen, Julia, hopefully, and Robin. And they're going to go through the same scenario, which I had this idea for a podcast back in the day called The Antagonists, where I was going to make people run through a storyline where they're basically the bad guys and have a different group run through the same exact storyline to see how differently they would do it. So I'm kind of resurrecting that idea, and we're going to have at it. So we're going to have the same scenario to see how crazy different things go. And if people really like this, it could become a permanent staple, and we'll see what happens with it. That said, for the live shows, I'm very excited to announce this because, as those of you who listen to Friday episodes should know at this point, we record these episodes live. And as a giant thank you to the people who have supported us through all these live shows, our group that we're going to stream live is going to be DM'd by me and Robin. We're going to work on some mechanics for how that's going to work. And we're going to choose the players from the folks who watch us, because you guys have been so amazing and so supportive that we know all of you by first name basis. A lot of you showed up to SpookyCon out there in Philadelphia, and it was amazing to meet all of you face to face in that one shot, or in that one time. And we would like to invite you to participate in this one shot with us as well, which would be so much fun. There is going to be a spot reserved. Robin and I have already talked about it for a couple of people. And we're going to see how big we want the group to be and how many folks we're going to do. But that said, Glitch Grim, I know you're watching right now. You were our number one choice. You are going to be part of this if you would like to be. And we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, because Glitch, I don't know if you guys know this, has been with us for like every single episode, every live stream we've done, every game stream we've done.
Our YouTube and our Twitch.
Twitch, Discord, Facebook. He's always monitoring the live stuff. He's an admin and a mod. And all these different spots, there's like this undying loyalty. It's like Glitch is here before we are sometimes. And because of that, we absolutely want to have Glitch in our group for this live episode. So the episodes we record on Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Not sure if the schedule is going to stay the same based off of whoever we wind up having as part of this group. As well as the people we record on Wednesdays won't be the episodes we release on Fridays. So it'll probably go like the Twats of Twats crew start getting their episodes released, and then the JJ Obsession group, because we're going to record in smaller bits, obviously, for the Wednesday thing. So very excited to announce that. I know that this was a long announcement because we're already like several minutes into the show and we haven't told you any scary stories yet. But that is where we're going to go for the next couple months, 3 months. We'll see. If people like it, to be honest with you, because I'm really excited to do it. I absolutely love Dungeons and Dragons. And for those of you who've never experienced it, like, I don't know if I'm going to listen to that, Adam. That sounds kind of lame. It's really just, I'm going to make up a story. These guys are going to try and walk through it as if they were the main characters. And maybe I kill them, maybe I don't. And they have ways to defend themselves. And we'll explain things. We're going to try and keep the game mechanics to a minimum. We don't want to get really bogged down in rules or things like that, but we're still going to make sure that it's going to be...
We just want to have fun with everyone.
We want to make sure the show is fun, and it has been for a really long time. We're trying to amp it up.
I know maybe not a lot of you folks know that Adam is a writer by, degree. Right?
I spent a lot of money to have Purdue University give me a degree for writing that I don't really use anymore.
Yeah, and so it's really fun to have these stories from Adam because they're so, unique. And you guys get to see this creative side of I'm Robin, of Adam that you don't normally get to see. So it'll be really fun.
Yeah. So, and I'll do voices, which will be silly. I haven't finalized the details on the storyline, but it is going to be, set in like a fantasy world, and these guys are going to have characters that they're going to create. And then I'm going to have something specific, and I'm going to make it fun and horror themed, which is kind of what our show is. So, we'll see how this turns out, and I hope you guys are excited, and I hope you guys enjoy it. But that said, this is still Storytime number 191, I think. And we have some stories to read.
I hope so, because that's what I named my file. That's what I named my
file, too. So
okay.
I think Robin is going first, if I am not mistaken. So go ahead and take the one that's not super long, and take it away.
All right. So this email is titled 3 Scariest Short Stories from Kiara. And it says, feel free to share. So we're going to share it. It goes, hello, Robin and Adam. Hello. That's us.
Hello.
I'm Robin. He's Adam.
I'm Adam. Hello. I mixed some accents there.
Hello.
My bad.
Hope you're having a good day. It's a pretty okay day. Today I wanted to share 3 scary-ish and or funny stories from my childhood. The first story starts a few years ago. I was staying at my cousin's house with my older sister for the weekend. A bit of background on my cousins. We're really close and love to joke around with each other. This helps put some suspicion in context. Okay. I feel like something happens and then you're like, did you do this? But because you're close cousins, it's like you're going to play a joke on them or whatnot, but never tell them the truth. Who knows? Maybe that's why you're suspicious. Anyway, let's get into it. I remember the first night I was at their house. They were telling me about my younger cousin's doll. Okay. They were telling me how the doll was haunted, and since it was coming from them, I thought they were only messing with me. I said the sentence I would come to regret. Prove it.
Oh, no.
I feel like those oh man. If someone said that to me, I'd be like, yes, we're going to torture them. To which they replied by doing exactly that. They decided to place the doll in their bedroom. I watched as they sat the doll on the bed, and we all went back downstairs. We watched some movies for a while before my younger cousin went upstairs. She starts screaming, causing all of us to run upstairs. My jaw drops as I noticed the doll went from one side of the room to the other. Now, I didn't know if they were messing with me or not, but I wasn't going to test it. I noped the F out of there and ran downstairs to grab my phone and call my mom to go home. To this day, they still claim they weren't messing with me, and I don't know if that's true, but I don't mess around with ghosts. All right. I could see that cousin being like, you want me to prove it? Here's proof. And they just went upstairs, moved the doll from one end to the other, and was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would definitely do that if I was that smart. I was not that smart as a kid.
I was the person who 100% got tricked. I was not the person playing the prank, so samesies.
The second story is not paranormal, but still pretty scary / funny. I stayed home from school today. I guess that was today. All right. Or maybe it's one day. Who knows? And was in my mother's bedroom watching TV. Now, everyone always talks about what they would do if someone breaks into their house, but trust me, your true response will come out in that moment. Which is funny because last night, Adam heard a sound and was like, that sounds like someone opening the door downstairs, and it's 1 a.m. And he just calmly gets up. He puts his headphones down, gets up. I see the hallway light turn on, and I'm waiting, sitting there, is something going to happen? Am I going to hear screams or yelling and things getting thrown around? And then I see the hallway light get turned off, and he walks back in. He's like, now the dog's fine. I was like, okay, thank God.
Peeked downstairs, I didn't see anything, and then I was like, wait, is our super, super noisy, half corgi, half German shepherd freaking out about this mysterious noise? And she was snoozing, so I'm like, we're good. She's not worried, then I'm not worried.
I was in the middle of watching a movie when I heard my house alarm start blaring. That would scare me if the house alarm started going off. When I first heard it go off, my body froze. Yes, there is flight, fight, and freeze as well. I was staring at the closed room door as my heart pounded in my ears. I ran to my mother's walk-in closet and sat down, but I remembered I left my phone on the bed. Oof. I ran out to grab my phone, but instead of going back to the closet, my stupid body wouldn't move. I believe a part of my freeze response is my writer's brain. It comes in handy when writing stories, but in scenarios like this, my head was running through many scenarios, making me not able to function properly. The alarm stopped suddenly as I heard someone putting the code in. Most people would assume that their parents were home, but not me. My brain was telling me whoever broke into the house somehow hacked my alarm system and found the code. I finally gained enough confidence to crack open the bedroom door to see who was there, and it was my cousin who came in from out of town. She turned and jumped, telling me how I scared her, like she didn't scare me half to death. I think that's hilarious, because you obviously didn't know they were coming. And then you just hear this alarm go off and you have no clue. Like your cousin's like, oh yeah, I'm just coming over. I know the code. I'll just put in the code, whatever. And then they're like, you scared me. Like, what the heck? I don't know. I think it's funny.
I agree.
But I would hope to never experience that. All right. Finally, my last story is more on the scary side. This was my experience with a very real and very scary dream. This was the only time in my life where I had a dream so real and so terrifying. This dream started out with me waking up. I know that sounds strange, but that's how it worked. I walked down the stairs of my house and into the kitchen. I opened the fridge to grab a water, and then when I turned around, I saw a huge figure standing in the corner of the kitchen. It was dark, and I couldn't really make out the figure, just that it was tall and lanky. When I looked at this creature, fear coursed through my veins, and I felt like I couldn't move. It was almost like I wasn't scared of the creature, just its presence and energy that it brought me. That was the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. It was like my fear of heights times 1,000. When I finally woke up from the dream, I was crying and sweating. That was the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. I'm glad I've never had a feeling like that again. Thanks for reading my stories and keep on creeping on. Hope you guys have a great day. And if you ever want stories from me, let me know. I know I've definitely had the horror dreams where I was like, I don't want to deal with this right now. I've had night terrors where it's just like demonic screaming in my head. And I've had dreams where when I wake up, I know I don't want to open my eyes because I think that if I open my eyes, it's going to be standing right there. Whatever creature I just saw in my nightmare is going to be standing on the edge of my bed. And sometimes I will keep my eyes closed and roll over and just like face at him. I'm like, I'm not waking up. Like, it's safer if I turn this way, even though it's like, it's a demon. It is gonna get you. It's gonna get you, especially if you turn your back to it. Yeah, I can't imagine having a dream where I feel like I've woken up, went and done a bunch of stuff and saw something. And then you wake up and you're like, well, if I go into the kitchen right now, is it going to happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I empathize with this. I definitely used to have some pretty awful night terrors, so having some horrible feelings come up during dreams is something I've been familiar with for the better part of 30 years of my life, so it certainly sucks. I didn't really have cousins that would play pranks on me, and I would play pranks on them back. My brother sure as fuck did, though, so I had to live with it constantly. It wasn't just like if my cousins were stopping by for the weekend or anything like that, but I don't live with him anymore, so I ain't got to worry about that. I say that and then he'll jump out from behind a fucking wall and be like, bah! But yeah, thank you so much for sending that in, and definitely send us more. We do want to hear your stories. But yeah, I think that's a good way to start the show.
Cool.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start out this very long story. The subject is You Are Welcome to Read on the Pod, and it is, again, very long, so it'll be broken into two parts, half by me, half by Robin, and it starts out like this. What's up, Robin and Adam, Spooky Mom, and Spooky Friends? What up?
What's up? That's us. That's everyone. Hello.
Everyone out there also has to say, what up? Wherever you're at right now, say it like to the wind, and make sure you nod your head when you do it. The email goes on. You are welcome to share this on the podcast. Alrighty, I have listened for years, and I have gotten my boyfriend to listen with me. He loves the fact that he is also named Adam, and enjoys yelling woo with Adam, so that's fun.
I think that's adorable.
I do too.
I love
I'm glad
that.
to know there's a power of Adam times 2 on some of these woos out there in the world. I have been meaning to send this for a long time, but classes take so much time, and so does work. I have now finished my junior year and actually have the time to type out something other than psychological case studies and chemistry problems. Anyway, I am about to dump some major shit from my childhood, and because of that, I will not be using real names. This event is true crime-ish, and still causes me to have panic attacks if I encounter similar noises or phrases from that night.
I am very interested in this. You already got me. You got me at true crime. I'm down.
Well, I'm glad you get the second half thing, because you get to wrap it up. To be honest, it doesn't bother me much now, but please feel free to laugh at my trauma. Aw. First, let's get some backstory for how this night happened. My dad is a piece of shit. Okay, that's all on him. My uncle is even worse. His wife sucked too. My father... There's a lot of shit talking about this family to start. My father was oddly single, which is rare for him. He liked to date, like, any woman with a heartbeat. Once he dated, like, 5 different women, all named Amanda, one right after the other. I was barely even in middle school at the time.
Oh, he has a type. Amanda's his type.
Apparently.
He's not into the women themselves. He's just like, oh, you're Amanda? Come with me.
Oh, your name's Amanda? Cool. I was barely even in middle school at the time, and I had 3 sisters then, the youngest being 10 years younger than me. I am guessing my age is like 12 because I repressed this memory for a really long time, making the ages of me and my sisters 12, 10, 8, and 2. At this time, my uncle lived with us along with his wife and one of their kids, who was barely 1 year old. He was probably on some hard pills and meth and literally any drug he could get his hands on, and honestly, his wife was just as likely fucked. I had only seen my father drink like a pint of whiskey, so by his standard and tolerance, he was stone cold sober. I'm going to put a trigger warning here for anything bad because I am going to have lots of details. This was a school night, probably like a Wednesday. The youngest of my sisters, who I'm going to call M, was in my dad's room trying to sleep, and finally the rest of us were allowed to go to bed at like 10. After we had all laid down, my dad asked one of us to lay with M, and the second youngest, who we'll call O, volunteered, and he left me and J, the third youngest, alone in our room. We then heard loud arguing after we had gotten comfortable in bed again. Normal day in this household, so whatever. Jay had gotten frightened and climbed into my bed and was laying on my chest, and the yelling stopped eventually. Then we heard it pick back up again, but this time, it was different. The words, which I don't remember, weren't drunk and just upset. They had a bit of seriousness and intent in them. I jumped up because I knew that tone and swung open my door with Jay closely pressed behind me. As I did, across the hall, I saw O holding M in her arms swing the door open to their room, looking just as startled at the tone. I looked down the hallway to a mirror that was placed in a way where you could see the family room, which was at the opposite end of the hallway. My dad told us to go back into our rooms, but I could hear my uncle's wife in tears. I ran my sisters and I into my father's room as it had the biggest bed, and I thought we may be able to sleep if we were all together and would feel maybe safe. All of us sat shivering in the bed and tried to figure out the cacophony of sounds that came from the opposite end of the house. Slamming doors, incoherent words, yelling, and loud pacing, which was more like drunken stomps.
This is giving me anxiety. Like, I'm...
We're going to get through this together, y'all. We're
like,
going through this person's trauma together. We're helping them get through it because they wrote it, so let's just keep going. It was all so confusing, as it was late, and I was very tired. My dad barged in and shoved my uncle's wife and their daughter into the room. She had sat down, and my dad yelled at us to run through the house, turn all the lights out, lock all windows, lock all doors, and get into the master bathroom. We all scrambled to do so, as this was not our first time locking down the house. Usually, it was like a cop or bill collector we were hiding from, though. Crowded into the master bathroom, I could hear my dad running through the house, checking locks and running from front to back door to try and find my uncle, who during the argument stormed out yelling about grabbing the 3 new machetes he had just got. The next time my dad walked in to check on us, I saw the pitch black pistol in his hand.
Oh my lord.
What my uncle didn't know was that the gun my dad had was completely disassembled moments earlier, and my dad was showing me all of its pieces, explaining that he had no ammo and the gun never worked, but he kept it to sell as scrap or to scare someone if he needed to. Based on the scared gasp, I didn't think anyone knew the gun wasn't fully functioning. Eventually, my dad went back into the family room and kitchen to try and get my uncle to leave, and I heard the hinges rip off the wood frame on the front door.
Oh my God.
I grabbed all of my sisters closer, knowing that in his meth-fueled rage, he had pushed the door inward onto my dad and was trying to hurt him and get to his own family. I could hear glass cracking with impact and all of the homemade wooden furniture splintering. Now, I think I'm getting a little bit of anxiety now, too, because I'm like just in the story, just like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, I'm like, just like, what is happening
This
right
episode
now?
should be called Trauma Time.
Oh,
Now,
no.
I had seen my uncle and dad wrestle around before, and it wasn't even a fight, but my dad had no weapons, and my uncle was on some PCP zombie type shit with a machete or 3. Eventually, my dad managed to push my uncle outside and shut the remnants of the door. He ran to his bedroom and threw open the window and screamed into the night about how he would kill or shoot him if he had to, and that he had called the police and they were already on their way. By now, I had called my mother, fully prepared to die at the hands of a machete-wielding crackhead, and said that some scary movie shit was going down and that my dad had called the cops. I was scared she would be mad if I didn't tell her, and I kept apologizing for being up so late, and she eventually got me to shut the hell up and listen to her. She begged me to call the police and call her back after, and she then hung up telling me to keep her updated, and that she was leaving work. She, however, was an hour away, and surely the police would be here before my mom could find our chopped up bodies in the bathtub, right? I was fucking wrong. Let's hope you guys don't get chopped up here. My father had not called the police at all. Why? Because this man was a drug dealer and was scared of cops. However, I was a small child who was scared of talking on the phone, and my dad said he had already done it, so why call again? This was a normal day at our house, and this wasn't an emergency compared to the normal happenings in the house. Someone could be dying, and I didn't want to waste the time of the cops or operators. Hey, young me was desensitized as hell and a dumbass, but whatever.
That's so sad.
And right there is where we're going to press pause.
Jesus.
Until we get to the second half, which will be read.
What kind of stop
Robin.
point is that? Oh, Lord have mercy.
It's the middle. That's why it's the stop point. So, all right.
Okay.
We're pausing right there. We will be back after this.
All right, everyone. So I'm going to finish this really anxiety-ridden story here. Hopefully, it's not too shocking having Adam read the first part and me read the second part. Maybe it'll flow. Maybe I can talk like Adam. I don't know. How does Adam talk? I can't talk lower. You can talk higher. All right. So the second part. Now, the part that really haunts me. My dad said he thought we would probably just wait on his bed right by the lovely floor-to-ceiling window. Everything was quiet and calm, and my dad was back in the kitchen. Just as M ran to the bathroom passing the window, I heard a noise that was earth-shattering. The sound a window makes when it is forcefully shoved upward. I didn't even process it fully before I saw the arms protrude from the blinds as they broke from the force, grabbing for anything. The closest was my sister. I yanked that hoe up so fast and bolted for the door. That is such a sister thing to do, though. Like, I definitely answer the phone to my sister as like sup ho or like stuff
It's
like
true.
that.
I've been around it multiple times.
So yanked that hoe up so fast and bolted for the door, which everyone else was already exiting from. I was screaming as I tried to shut the door, hoping that it would add any kind of wall between us and that blitzed out man. My dad kicked in the door and pistol whipped him with the gun, which actually came in handy. I was long fucking gone before it happened, so I didn't see it, but I sure as hell heard that bone cracking, yet squishy noise, followed by the gun shattering to pieces and hitting everything around. We made it to the room again after he had been pushed out and the window shut and locked once again. Just then, I could hear my dad freaking out and in whispered tones that he had killed his brother. What the fuck? And he could see a pool of blood spilling from his head after he had hit him. So he hit him so hard that he was just bleeding. Then that gut-wrenching noise of gravel under tires. I begged that it wasn't my mom because my dad would be scared to let her in and she would have to try and escape the sociopath prowling around the house. Thankfully, it was a cop. Just kidding.
Oh, no.
I couldn't get that lucky. Jesus. Well, it was kind of a cop because, remember, no one had been called yet. This particular quote-unquote cop was actually a buyer of my dad's. He came to my dad's call to help hide all the illegal shit. What the what? He came into the house and walked into the bathroom, reached his hand into the fist-shaped hole, reached down onto the wood beam that ran horizontally just under the hole, and pulled out the bags of Mary Jane. What the what? Walked into the room and asked if we were good, then went and hid the bags in his car and then called the cops for real this time. Oh my Jesus. They showed up in just a few minutes. Surprise, another plot twist, where my uncle lay bleeding out under that window was now only occupied by the large puddle of dark blood. He was in the wind and behind our house by a large shed full of a fuck ton of electric tools. Oh my God. This is like Trauma City right now. I walked barefoot into the hallway now that I heard the ambulance in the yard. The hallway looked as if you slit someone's throat and ran around trying to cover every little crevice with blood. In a moment of shock, I walked through the pools of it, feeling the liquid, which was now cold and sticky, leaving a trail behind me. Yo! I can't even with this story. Like, what the hell? It is so visual and so visceral. I can't.
And
even.
Objectively, very well written.
When I saw the disheveled living room, I ran to my sisters, praying for them to not go see the bloodbath. Just as they had slipped past me to look, I felt my life force drain as my mom's voice screamed threats at the cops and my dad, who I could now see cowering down behind the 3 cops, standing like a wall and not letting my mom in. She then said the most iconic thing for this situation that still makes me fear her, but also feel like she's a bad bitch. "Where are my girls?" She turned to the cops as she caught a glimpse of us. Okay, and all worry turned to fury. "If I find that man first, I'll fucking kill him." Fuck yeah, that's my mom admitting to the cops that she will commit some felonies if they don't do their job. As the startled cops stepped aside, my mom pushed us, one of which wasn't her kid, but my dad let her take her since it wasn't safe, and she was my sister, just with a different, now absent, mom, into her car as she most likely yelled profanities at my father, who dared not test his luck with his ex-wife, who had a track record of trying to murder anyone who so much as looked at someone she cared about in the wrong way. Guess where I eventually got to sleep? Oh yes, 2 houses away from my dad's, because my dad is a weird stalker ex who moved to a house on the same street as my mom. What question did little me ask when we got home and tried to rest with my uncle's whereabouts still unknown? I asked her if we were still going to school in the morning. This fucking
I love
kid.
Using the whole thing as like, Mom, I don't want to go to school tomorrow.
She looked at me shocked and was very much thinking of our resemblance as she told me no. Great. A day off and a fun, traumatic story to tell. My mom reluctantly let us go see our dad the next day as we had been worried about him. My loving father treated us to a fun road trip to going to the jail and bailing out my uncle with him. We then finished off the day by going to the kids' park, which for some unknown reason was directly next to the jail.
What?
Now that you've been introduced to the shit show of my life, I'm gonna try and explain some afterthoughts. Was I a moron as a kid? Yes. Do I trust cops? No, I still don't. My friend eventually resurfaced this memory while in high school during one of our favorite activities. We sat on her back deck, which was elevated from the hill down below, watching the sun disappear behind the trees and listening to spooky, scary stories on YouTube. Now this one had a particular sound of a window sliding open to emphasize the story of a break-in. My whole body froze at that sound. I had the horrible spike of adrenaline followed by the sharp pain in my heart that signified I was having a panic attack. I went into a full-out spiral of panicked crying and trying to escape my own mind and the darkness and the story and my friend. And yet I couldn't be alone as my nails dug into my palms. I shook while I told the story for the first time since that night. This was also not the first time a cop was a fucker, or the first a family member tried to kill my dad while I was there. Luckily, in 7th grade, a rumor was spread that I was sleeping with a girl, and my dad confronted me, and when I said no, but I was indeed a homosexual, he acted hurt and said he was sorry for how I turned out, and the next time I came to see him, all of my belongings were on the porch, so I no longer had to deal with his BS. Fuck him.
Yeah, I very much try and not say shitty things about people's family when we're getting through stories with them in it, but fuck
that is
him, man.
Fucking stupid. Yeah.
Like, I love that being yourself freed you from that shit, though. Like, seriously.
Yes, 100. You do you. And good thing you're out of that mess and that you don't have to deal with anymore, because if he treats you that way, fuck it. Also, don't feel pity, because that shit is lame, and now I am very medicated, and it doesn't scare me anymore, and I can laugh at it. Thanks so much for this show that I spend all of my waking moments playing. Also, there's a girl in 2 of my classes who has said 1 or 2 things that make me think she may listen to the podcast. So, what up, Lily? If you happen to listen to this podcast, let's be friends!
That's awesome. I hope so much.
Lily, if you're out there, fucking hit up... Wait, who wrote this? I don't know the name of who wrote this, but maybe you guys can run into each other and it'll be great. But I am way too scared to ask you in person because, yeah, sorry for the long-ass drawn-out story, but I hope you enjoyed it and my writing wasn't too bad. It was fantastic. So well written. And I am so glad you don't have to deal with that crap anymore. No one should have to deal with someone who thinks you should not be you.
100%.
Bitches. Yep.
Let me check really fast. This
All
was
right.
sent over in PDF form. I think the person's name, it's Autumn. Thank you so much, Autumn, for sending us the story. It was super intense, and I very much appreciate it when people decide, like, hey, even though this is traumatic for me, I'm going to share it, because you never know who's listening to it. It's like they feel more normal hearing that something has happened to someone else that's traumatic or just, crazy by normal standards, but some of us have lived through crazy shit, And
Yep.
it's really hard to explain to someone who's never gone through that trauma. And it was very, very well written. And thank you so much for sharing it one more time. And if you have any other stories, please send it our way and keep us updated if your classmate comes up to you and is like, I totally listen to Scary-ish. I'm going to be so excited if that's the case. But yeah.
Hey, we've had a couple who met because of the podcast get married.
Mhm.
Okay.
And there
I
was an
think
ocean
people
between them at the time.
Yes, from 2 different countries. Okay. So if 2 people can come together and become spooky best friends, I'm totally down for that.
Indeed. All right. So to follow that up, we have the last email of the show. This one's subject is, and I'd like to point out that this is a great way for you folks to do this. They say, you can share, just keep my name anonymous, which we absolutely will. So if you have a story but you're worried, like, I don't want people to know it's me, you can always just send it in and ask us to keep your anonymity. We'd be more than happy to do that. This story starts out like this. Hey, Robin and Adam.
Hello, that's us. Hello, governor.
Hello. I'm finally caught up. I've been wanting to write you guys for a
Nice.
while, but I wanted to catch up first. Anyways, I listen to you guys at work. I work overnights, and you guys definitely help the shift go by fast. That is something that means the world to me because work sucks. And if we can make it go by faster...
Work sucks.
I knew you were going
know.
to do it. It goes on to say, I came across you guys randomly on Spotify and got hooked once I started listening. It's funny, though. Goddamn, shout out to Spotify. You've been so good to us. It's funny, though, because I listen to you guys on my speaker at work, and it's always so inconvenient when Adam says something inappropriate and one of my coworkers is listening. They kind of just give me a look like, what are you listening to? And I just try...
Like, what kind of inappropriate?
I say some
Like, what
ridiculous
does Adam
shit, so I
say?
feel really bad for this person. They say, what are you listening to? And I just quickly try to explain what the podcast is about and how Adam is just random like that. If anyone is in that moment right now, this is a paranormal/true crime podcast, and I am a stupid random asshole that says filthy shit often. So I apologize, cockballs.
Oh my god.
So,
What?
anyways.
What? Children listen to the show. I mean,
If children are listening to this
100%.
show,
Children should not be listening to
I'm
this show.
not going to say children
It
shouldn't
literally
listen
is
to this
18
show.
plus.
But what I will say is you should have your parents' permission and understand you should not repeat anything we say. So,
Unless it's educational and accurate.
unless you're going to be like, so actually the Isle of Man is this island that exists, between this place and this place, cockshit balls. And then hopefully you won't get in too big of trouble.
Don't ever
Don't
no.
say that, kids.
Don't.
Also, realistically, kids, like, this isn't your show if you're listening to it. Hey, cool. I used to watch R-rated movies when I was very young. It clearly wasn't a demographic for me, so I knew not to repeat that stuff and not get in trouble.
I mean, I feel like if I were in middle school and I was listening to a bunch of true crime stuff, I would be so traumatized. Like, I would not want to go outside. Straight
That could
up.
be. I mean, the stuff that we did this topic episode was pretty horrific. But all right, let's get back to this person's email. The next word is anyways, because they knew I was going to fucking do that. Anyways, now into my weird experiences at home. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with my mom and siblings, and I've kind of always heard weird things in my apartment. Not too scary, just things falling out of place and such. I remember a few years ago, I want to say I was about 12. I am now 25, so more than a few. And I was walking into my kitchen, and one of our top cabinet doors was open. I decided to look up, and for some weird reason, I saw the random shadow figure jump down at me, and I literally squatted and put my arms over my head. My brother looked at me kind of strange and asked what happened, and I explained to him what I experienced and if he had seen it as well. He looked at me like I was crazy, kind of tried to laugh it off, and was like, nah, I think you're just seeing things. That was the one and only time I saw something like that in our home. I've seen shadows at work, and it always happens to be in the same spot. The figure just kind of looks about my height, which is 5'1", and looks like it has short hair. Can't tell if it's a guy or a girl. It did scare me at first, but at this point, I just see it as them keeping me company while working that section. That's kind of scary, but it's like, if you can find peace with these shadow figures that are just sort of hanging out, as long as they're not following you and they're sticking to their area, I guess I could see that.
I'm sorry, but if I was working in a warehouse and I kept seeing this shadow figure chilling, I'd be like, I'm not coming into work ever. See you later. It's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun.
All right. It goes on to say, there was also this other time when I was home alone, and the way my apartment is set up, the sink and mirror are not in the bathroom, if that makes sense. Not sure how to explain it, but it's a tiny hallway, and my mirror and sink are there, and then in the bathroom, we have a shower and bathtub. I think it's kind of like when you have like how our bathroom used to be in our room out here, where it's like you have the sink in one room, and then behind it is like the cabinet, and then there's a door, and inside the door is like the toilet and the bathtub / shower combination. So you have like a water closet that has your shower in it.
I assumed it was kind of like Starbucks, where you have the toilet rooms and then you walk outside and it's the sink and mirror and everyone washes their hands together.
I don't know. That could be. All right. Anyways, one day I was getting ready to go out on a date with my boyfriend, and I was doing my makeup in front of the mirror when suddenly I hear water running. At first, I didn't think much of it because I thought it was coming from my neighbors next door. Yes, the walls are pretty thin. Then, I took a moment to process it, and I noticed it was coming from my bathroom. I got the courage to open the bathroom door, and it was in fact my shower running. It was the hot water, and I went to shut it off, called my boyfriend to pick me up, and waited for him outside my building. It was super weird and creepy, but that was the only time I've ever experienced that. That's all I have for now. I do have other stories, just have to type them out for you guys. I hope I get to hear this on the podcast. Also, I typed this out at 5:30 a.m. while on my last break at work. I hope it makes sense. I was too lazy to go back and proofread. Upside down smiley face. Sorry.
Story of my life. It's cute.
That's so funny. Thank you so much for sending that in. We definitely want to hear your other stories, so hopefully you have another break at 5:30 a.m. coming up soon that you can write them to us. We would definitely appreciate it. And yeah, I would try and find another apartment because fuck that. Like, if your shower's turning on, one,
haunted
it's
as heck.
terrifying, and two, that is wasting like money. Like, you're paying for water, I assume. You're paying for electricity or gas or whatever to heat your shower, and that's expensive shit, dog.
I know us here on the West Coast are running low on water.
Yeah, seriously, ghosts.
So,
what the fuck? That's
yeah.
rude.
And I mean, so when it comes to plumbing things turning on and off, I know that's one of the things that people are always like, but plumbing does that sometimes. It can't be a ghost. It just happens. So I don't know about that one.
I understand that sometimes things
happens.
turn on their own, but to get to hot water, typically you have to turn something like 75% of the way open. So that's like a significant plumbing problem if that's just happening randomly. And it was an isolated incident, which makes it even weirder. So either way, thank you so much for sending that in. Tell us the rest of your stories. And that is everything we have for this particular episode of Storytime. For folks who have homegrown horrors out there that would like to send them our way, please do so. You can email storytime@scarish.com or go to our website, scarish.com, and click on Contact Us. There's a form you can fill out, and it does come directly to us. Or hit us up on our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod, and Instagram is @scarishpodcast. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast, and those are monthly donations with tiers starting at $1. So for 4 quarters in tax, you can support us on Patreon. We also have a bunch of different tiers. There's some merch tiers, which reminds me I need to mail out the merch for this month for our Badge of Honor tiers and above. But we also have coffee, ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast, and those are one-time donations if you're not into the whole monthly donation type thing. And we're thankful for everybody who has offered their time, money, and just sharing us with your friends and family, things like that. We appreciate every
your
single
support
one of you.
means the world to us, and it definitely keeps us moving forward, and it's the reason why we do the show. So thank you to everyone who listened, and we look forward to hearing from you about this D&D campaign and whether or not you're excited about it. So
yes, I'm very excited
jazzed.
for
It's going to be
it.
a little bit more work, but it's the most excited I've been for something new on the show in a minute. So it's going to be a good time. But thank you to everyone for listening. That's everything we have for this episode of Storytime. So Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.